Um, so yeah, thanks for coming along today. And um, the theme of the webinar is better blogging for accountants. And my name's Matt Wilkinson. I'm the founder and CEO of BizInc. And what we do is build websites and help with online marketing for accountants. And a big part of what we do there is it is help with blogging, and it's a really important part of your kind of overall online marketing mix. So what we're going to be talking about today in terms of blogging is, well, first of all, why blog? You know, you've probably heard that having a blog is a good idea, but why? Have a look at how to get ideas for blog posts, and that can often be the stumbling block to creating a successful blog. We're going to get some writing tips from the BizInc content team, and then finally I'm going to look at how to market your blog. So let's jump straight in, and one of the things that we're going to feature throughout this webinar is some pro tips. And what I mean by these is basically some tips from really good accounting bloggers. And this one is from Blake Oliver, who's marketing manager at HPC, which is one of the biggest cloud accounting firms in the US. And he's also a prolific blogger. And so what, like, I'm not going to read out what's on screen, but you can see there what he's saying is that, you know, blogging's not primarily about SEO. SEO is means search engine optimization. It's basically a fancy term for getting a high ranking in Google. And that's often stated as the main reason why you should actually have a blog. But like Blake says, for most firms, your chance of getting on the first page of Google, especially if you're a smaller firm with your blog, is pretty low. And actually, you know, that's not in itself a big issue, because look, you know, a lot of your best clients are going to come in from referrals. And you know, look, even if you do if your blog does rank quite highly in Google, that doesn't mean you're suddenly going to get a whole load more clients, because that traffic that comes through Google may not be that high quality. I'll give you an example. One of the firms that we work with in New Zealand has a post about whether you can claim GST on secondhand goods, so sales tax on secondhand goods. And he gets a huge amount of traffic from that. The post ranks very highly in Google, and he does get some leads from it, but often a lot of them aren't very high quality. It's just people who've Googled that phrase and they get in touch and they just want some free information. So first thing to note really is that, you know, a blog is really good for SEO. It can help with that, but it isn't the primary reason to have it. And like Blake says, you know, referrals are such an important part of your new business, and that's another reason I think the blog is important. So how I like to describe it is, what your website is going to do is seal the deal with referrals. So by that, I mean, when people are referred to you, even by someone that they really trust, what they're going to do is some due diligence on you. And what that means is coming to have a look at your website. So, you know, you've got to make sure that your site gives a good impression. Lots of factors come into that. It needs to look good. It needs to be mobile friendly. And a blog is, you know, a small but important part of that is that, you know, having an active and engaging blog makes your site look fresh. It shows that, you know, you're putting out some interesting content, and that can help with referrals. So, you know, following on from that, to me, the primary reason why you should blog is to demonstrate your expertise. It comes back to, you know, what I would say is the most important thing behind all of your marketing, not just your website and blog, is to build trust and credibility. Whether that's people, you know, who are referred to you or people who've just discovered your website, what you're trying to do is build trust and credibility. And a blog is a great way to do that. because you're putting out expert content that demonstrates, your knowledge and your expertise. So another way of explaining that is it's showing rather than telling. So, telling is maybe what you do on your services page. You go, okay, we can help you with cash flow. But lots of firms are going to say that same thing. However, if you write a blog post that mentions, 10 ways small businesses can keep more cash in their business, and they're really practical, actionable things, then, you're showing that business that you understand this stuff. And a blog is a great place to do that. So, we would always say with accounting websites that we work on with our clients, try and keep most of your sites simple. People don't come and extensively read, for example, your services page. It's not that interesting to them. But the depth of your site should be the blog. So the rest of the site quite simple, but the blog, well, in some ways, more content is better. Assuming you're creating good quality content, having a really well-stocked blog is really useful, because it becomes this repository of knowledge that it builds over time, and that has like a multiplying effect. So I'm going to jump in and show you another pro tip, and this is from Donna Bordeaux of Bordeaux and Bordeaux, and they're a CPA firm in Charlotte in the States. And what they've done, they've got a niche marketing site, and as you can see from this quote, they're asked very specific questions, and they use their blog to answer those questions. So not only does someone come along and go, oh, that's great, they understand exactly what it is about what I do. As Donna says, sometimes they don't even realize they've got an issue. Come to the blog, and that's got such a powerful effect. Demonstrating how they completely understand that niche and that industry. So that leads me on to look, how do you get ideas for blog posts? Hopefully you can see why it's worth having a blog, but how to get ideas, and I find this is probably the biggest stumbling block of firms that we work with or talk to. How do you come up with ideas? So what I'm going to do is give you some simple ideas, simple ways to come up with ideas. But really, there's one overarching concept, which is you need to focus on your client's pain points. If you do this, that will generate a lifetime's worth of, not just blog content, but interesting content. What you're trying to do is obviously solve a problem, and if your content isn't solving a problem, then you probably want to have a look at that, because it's probably not as useful as you think. So we've got another pro tip here, and this is from Heather Smith, who's a well-known blogger, I guess, in the Xero ecosystem, and she's the author of several books, including Xero for Dummies. So how she kind of explains this pain point thing is, look at the questions clients ask and then answer them, and then you blog about it. It doesn't sound too complex, and it's not. You just have to focus on those questions that get asked, several times, and you've got all the content that you need. So first of all, answer client questions, but in detail. That's really important. Be detailed and be specific. Don't do some broad brush stuff. Nice, specific, and actionable stuff works really well. And the reason why, look, we're talking about clients here is, you can assume that your clients are going to have the same issues as the prospects, as the people that you're trying to reach as you grow your firm. And if you're getting those questions out there on your blog, that can help with search engines. So, the example I gave with the post about GST on secondhand goods, that's obviously something that people are thinking about. Are there similar topics that you could write about that would bring people to your site. But most importantly, you need to think about that trust and credibility thing. It's not necessarily about search engines. It's about providing expert content. And like I say, specific is really good. It's better to have a really strong appeal to a few people than a weak appeal to many people. So, again, using that GST on secondhand goods example, that probably appealed quite weakly to a lot of people. Whereas if you were focusing on a real specific niche or industry, that could be a very focused post, have a very strong appeal, but obviously not to as many people. So, to back that up, Donna Bordeaux, again from Bordeaux and Bordeaux, the question she says she's always asked is estimated payments. So they wrote a blog post on that, and every time she's asked about that subject, she can just send an email and refer them to the blog. That's great in two ways. First of all, it's a big time saver, and that's great. The second thing is sending the link to the blog is more powerful than just sending an email with that information in it, because it shows that this firm has already thought about that. They haven't just come up with this answer. They thought about it ages ago. And that in itself is quite subtly powerful. So, even if you just did that on your blog, answered some of those client questions, I think that would be a really successful strategy. But what I'm going to do next in terms of generating ideas is actually show you some types of blog posts that you could create. And we'll talk about how each of these could work. This isn't an exhaustive list, but I thought these are some really good types of posts that accountants can create. And I think if you have this list handy, if you're stuck for ideas, there should be something in here where you can quickly and easily come up with ideas and a format to write about. So they're not in any particular order. There isn't one that works better than others. There's a certain kind of factor here where you need to understand your audience a bit. But I think all of these posts would generally work across any type of accounting firm. So the first one I'm going to talk about is a how-to or tutorial post. So, we sort of covered this a little bit already. So what are you constantly repeating to clients? And just write about it. So, Donna's example there, the estimated payments. It could also be, for example, like a software tip. So this is where video could work well. I jotted down an example, how to do a bank reconciliation in Xero. Basically something probably, if a lot of your clients might be interested in if they're on Xero, why not create a quick video just showing your screen with you talking over that. It's going to take, a handful of minutes to do that. Doesn't need to be, highly produced. Get that out there, put that in a blog post, really useful. Then if you're asked that question again, which no doubt you will be, you can send that blog post out there, or you can make that part of some, training information. So how to a tutorial, you've obviously got to know your subject matter, but that can be a really good kind of post. It's kind of similar, but will be a cheat sheet or checklist post. And what this is really is, what you're trying to do here is summarize, I guess, a more complex subject. And we all know that human nature is to take the path of least resistance. So people always want shortcuts, hacks. How can I make my life easier, particularly business people? Summarize a more complex subject, which can then kind of whet people's appetite for more information. And that could be that they contact you to get more information, or it could lead into some more in-depth content that you create at another time. So I've just come up with an example here. Want to get paid faster? Take our 7-step cash flow challenge. And obviously you're gonna write 7 steps in there. Why would this work? Well, first is you've got the pain point in there, cash flow. Probably, well, I'm going to say every small business faces a cash flow issue at some point. Some businesses face it, every single month. So, who doesn't want to get paid faster? It's talking about a pain point. There's a question in there, so people think, oh, could I get paid faster? I'm quite interested. Puts a bit of doubt in their mind. So you've got that kind of clickbait element where someone's going to click on it and read more. And there's that bit of a challenge. Take our 7-step cash flow challenge, and that appeals to people's kind of playful or competitive spirit. So you could, the cash flow challenge, you can think about what that might be. Lots of different things you could put in there. You've got yourself quite a good, interesting post there. And with a kind of checklist or cheat sheet post, it really lends itself to including a download. So something that we're going to kind of come back to a few times is that it's really worth having calls to action on all of your blog posts. So ways for people to get in touch, or ways that you don't just let them leave empty-handed. And so, if I were doing this kind of cash flow challenge, I would create, like a PDF. I'd get that designed up so it looked nice. Go to somewhere like Fiverr.com, and that's going to cost you very little money, and offer that as a download at the end of the post. And you could even ask for somebody's email address in exchange for downloading it. So you do that, you've generated a lead, and your blog's doing its job. So another type of post you could create is a review post. And there's always going to be those times when you're really stuck for ideas, you're not feeling particularly creative, and that's where I think a review post can come in. Doesn't require too much mental energy, but can still make something that's really interesting. So obviously what you're trying to do is review something like, it could be an app, some software, it could be a book, it could be a service. Again, this is one where you'd have to think about what's appropriate to your audience. But some of the examples that I could give would be, why don't you review, for example, do a comparison of popular expense apps. So it could be, Receipt Bank, Shoebox, Expensify, compare and contrast with what are the pros and cons of each one. That's something that's not only going to be interesting for your clients, but you could get in touch with some of those apps and maybe ask them to comment on the post. I've seen that done, and you'd be surprised. They may seem like big companies who wouldn't be interested in what you're doing, but they're really happy that people are talking about them. So you could amplify the content that way. Another thing you could do is review books. I love reading business books, but there's a lot of bad business books out there, so it's hard to sometimes know the good ones from the bad. Why not do a monthly, a quarterly review of a business book? That could be really good. Or doesn't have to be new books. You could go back and look at classic business books and maybe distill the key points from them. Personally, I love that kind of post where you take a business classic like How to Win Friends and Influence People and just take out like the 5 kind of takeaways from that. Something like that could be a really interesting post. And don't be afraid to be opinionated as well. People don't like what I would call like vanilla content, neutral, sitting on the fence type content. Have an opinion, be controversial. That works really well in online content. And, as long as you're backing that up with facts and reasoning, then there's no problem with that at all. Much better to be that way than kind of vanilla, as I would call it. So another type of post that I think works really well is an interview post, and kind of like an interview, a review post. Doesn't take doesn't need to take too much time or effort to create them. You know, you can just record a call or a Skype conversation, transcribe that, and you've got a really you've got a blog post right there. And you know, actually, you could even just post the recording. You repeat that a few times, and that's a podcast, right? So you know, it takes it beyond just being a blog post. If you're doing that regularly, it could become a podcast. And in terms of who to interview, I think what you're looking at here is thought leaders to your audience. So, you know, I don't know who that would be. It could be local people, it could be national people. It very much depends on your client base. But what you're obviously trying to do is interview people whose opinions are going to interest or impress your clients and prospects. So, you know, ask your clients who they'd be interested in, and that could be it could be other professionals. You know, for example, it could be an HR expert talking about hiring or staffing issues. It could be, you know, a lawyer that you work with talking about contracts or succession planning or something like that. Or you know, you might want to also interview a client or clients. I think that could work really well. You know, if you've got a client who's got an interesting business, particularly if they're well known and respected in the local community, interview them. You know, find out what their business challenges are. Maybe talk about how you've helped them. That again could be a really good idea for, you know, something regular that you could do. And it's got the added benefit there of making your clients feel special. You know, they're probably quite impressed that you want to interview them. So I think that would work well too. And another benefit you will find from doing interviews is that there's a real networking benefit. Kind of related to this, someone asked me, I was talking to a guy in the UK last night. He's a supplier to accountants, and he was asking about the BizInc podcast and why, what's its biggest benefit. And to me, it wasn't actually, or isn't, the amount of people who listen to the podcast. That's important, but actually what's been the surprising benefit to us over time has been the contacts that we make through the podcast. So who we talk to, who they can then connect us with. It's a really good way to network. So this kind of post can also have that kind of unexpected benefit. Next post I'd mention would be the deep dive. And this would be probably the least frequent type of post that you do, because by its very nature, what you're doing is really taking a deep dive, going really kind of deep on a specific topic, going into great detail. So by nature, these posts tend to be quite long, and so you're not likely to be creating too many of them. But they're going to be probably some of your most valuable posts when you do create them. So you might only do a couple a year, but there could be a huge amount of really important information in them, and they're probably something that people will come back to. So it goes without saying that you're going to need to know your subject matter inside out to create this kind of post. And I would say start with something that you're really passionate about. You're not going to be able to write a huge amount of words about something that you don't really care about. So pick something which you're really enthusiastic about, and let that passion shine through, and that will really make for a better post. It will be very apparent. So I thought I'd give an example. It could be a complete guide to selling your restaurant business. We could have said here, complete guide to selling your business, and that could be interesting. But if you think, obviously, of all the different kind of business types and company types, then You'd have to be quite unspecific in that post. And I think with a deep dive post, you want to be really specific so that it's really, really useful. So, I've picked on a restaurant business. You can insert any industry in there. But, using that example, there's obviously going to be certain things that like a restaurateur wants to think about when they're selling the business, how they leave, how they deal with staff in that kind of transition. There's a huge amount that could come out of that. So by doing that, you're really demonstrating that kind of industry domain knowledge, and that's perfect for this kind of post. So let's say you've created that post, and that could be like, hundreds of words long, maybe thousands of words long. You're not just going to want to leave that as a blog post. You're going to want to repurpose that. And by repurpose, what I mean is, use that in different ways beyond the blog. So for me, what I would do with that would be maybe add in some images and get a graphic designer to create an ebook from that post. Then that gives you something great that can be shared on social media. You could give that to all your restaurant clients. If you were trying to bring on more restaurant clients, you could give that ebook, or you could even print it out and give that away to them during the sales process. That would impress me quite a lot if I were being sold to. Or break it up into small snippets and post those on social media. So pull out a little snippet, post that, and then link back to the original post. So these are like big posts. You're not going to do them that often, but can be really valuable and give you a lot of source material that you can use to drive your marketing. And really the opposite of these are what I would call just quick posts. Basically small nuggets of useful information that you can just throw onto your blog really quickly. Don't need too much thinking about. Just keeps the blog ticking over nicely. So examples could be remember to file your personal tax return by this Friday. Pretty obvious ones. You can put those kind of filing dates in there. Or did you know that Chargify now integrates with Xero? A bit of a typo there. That was one that, so we use Chargify for our billing, we use Xero for our accounts. They integrate, and I found that out like after, a fair bit after the fact. And to me, that'd have been great if my accountant came along and said, "Oh, do you know these two apps work together now? And would you like us to sort that integration for you?" I'd be like, "Yeah, absolutely. I'll pay you to do that." So both of these things are potentially a billing opportunity with these kind of quick posts. Don't just kind of put the little kind of nuggets of information out there. You also want to suggest a solution. So like that second example, would you like us to help you do that? And these short posts as well, great for social media, where you don't want to be kind of going too deep with things. You can repost them onto social media. A guest post, so to me, like a guest post is a really powerful thing that you can use, but tends to be very underutilized by accounting firms. And it's a great way to get interesting content on your site. So it's a real great time saver as well, because what we're talking about with the guest post is basically having somebody else outside of your firm write a post for your blog. So obviously you're not having to do the writing. That saves you time. And what you're going to do is, like the interview posts, you want to find thought leaders to your audience, to your clients, to your prospects, and get them involved. So what I would do is make a wish list of people who you'd like to feature on your blog and approach them. If you have, let's say, 20 people and you think 5 of those people are quite unlikely at first maybe to just say yes, approach some other people first, get some other guest posts on there, and then when you approach the, let's say, bigger names, you can go, well, look, this person's already written a guest post for us. Here's another person who wrote one. So you're building your own credibility that way. Obviously, the more you get, the more credibility you're going to build. And just also remember that people will be happy to write guest posts for you. Not everyone will, but you'd be surprised how many people will. But just understand what's in it for them, and that could be a lot of different things. First, they might be trying to reach your audience, which is fine. As long as they're not trying to steal your clients. It's you're not obviously probably not going to feature another accountant on your blog. It might be like a local lawyer. It might be a software person, a marketing expert. So not people who are trying to steal your clients, but would be interested in your audience. Why else might people want to write for you? Could be because they want to be associated with your firm because you've got a lot of credibility. Don't underestimate that. People's egos, an appeal to ego is often successful. People like seeing their name in print as such. So, make sure that they feel like they're going to get some prominence out of it. People do like that. And, some people just like helping other people. So understand what their motivations are and then make sure, you address those in your approach. And obviously when, if they do write for you, make sure that you give them, a really good credit, links back to their website, their social media, and that you do your kind of best to promote that post, so their time is worthwhile. So yeah, we just covered that, what's in it for them. And the other thing is, who could you write a guest post for? I've been recently asked to write a guest blog for a cloud integrator, and they work with a lot of accountants. And a lot of those accountants they work with want marketing information, and they're not really in the best place to give that information. So they've kind of want Bizzing to come in and kind of do that expert content. So that's great for us because we get to kind of leverage off their audience, and their credibility. They've got a really strong brand, so us being associated with them is quite powerful. And is that something that you could do? For example, I don't know, it could be with your local chamber of commerce. It could be your local news website. In my local paper and news website, a local accountant and a local lawyer both write columns weekly, and yeah, I do read them. They're quite useful. So that could be something that you look to do. Another type, well, it's not a type of post as such, is a series of blog posts. So where we're looking to cover a really broad topic, and even like a deep dive doesn't really, deep dive to me is like very specific on one kind of very narrow subject. A series of blog posts could cover quite a wide topic, but you're going to want to split that up into a series. And what's good about this, because what we're really talking about here is coming up with ideas, is that you can come up with the topic, and then you can come up with your ideas for different posts within that topic in that series, and that's giving you maybe 5, 10, 15 ideas for blog posts you don't have to think about, and then you just got to kind of write them. So an example. And so, another benefit here is obviously you do that well. People aren't just going to read one; they're going to keep coming back. So you're building an audience, just like a TV series. Kind of, you got your cliffhangers. If you write your posts well, people are going to keep wanting to keep coming back and get to the end of that series. So, trying to be really practical and give some examples here. One that I thought about would be quite good. How to build a profitable freelancing business and still have a life. So I mean, if you work with freelancers, I've been a freelancer myself, and it can be very stressful. It can be very lonely. Cash flow is a real pain. Getting paid, and you're trying to be profitable, trying to have a good lifestyle, and it's quite hard. So, you know, in a series like that, you could cover all kinds of topics like company setup. You know, what's the best entity? Is it a sole trader? Is it a limited company? How to keep on top of your bookkeeping. You know, I'm sure you've had freelancers bring you a load of kind of crappy receipts at the end of the year. You know, how to do that properly. Maintaining a work-life balance, getting paid on time. You know, what are the top apps for freelancers? There's tons of stuff out there like time tracking, you know, receipt tracking, you know, all these kind of things. How to spot problem clients. So, you know, just that one topic, you know, you can quickly start coming up with lots of different emails that you could blog posts that you could do on that subject and create a really interesting series. And you know, it's amazing what that could then spin out to be. If we have a look at another pro tip from Heather Smith, so you know, she created a book that she is now published, Learn Small Business Startup in 7 Days. Started life as a collection of 350 word blog posts. You know, 350 word blog posts, not too hard to write. That's not a huge amount of words. And you know, as she says, you know, blog regularly. Before you know it, you'll have a book. So, yeah, I'm not saying you have to go out and suddenly with the you know, the kind of goal of being a published author. It could just be an ebook. It could be, you know, there's lots of different things it could become. But it's amazing what a blog can spin out to be more than what you originally intended it. Final type of post that I wanted to look at is what I would call a reaction post. So I'll say these, they can't really be planned. You know, what you're trying to do here is you know, you're keeping your eye out for opportunities that you can add your expert opinion to. So you know, the obvious one that lots of firms do is the budget. So our reaction to the budget. You know, and I think it's quite an obvious thing to do. I'm not saying there's no validity in doing that, but lots of firms do it, so it doesn't make you stand out. What are the things that can you think about that are, you know, a bit more creative than that you could react to? So to me, it could be like local stuff. You know, people probably more interested often in things in the local area. So like what's happening in the local paper that you could react to, or spin that on its head almost, is how can you bring a local focus to something in the national news. You know, you could, let's say, react to software features. So, you know, you're using whatever platform it is, Xero, QuickBooks, MYOB, they release a new feature. You know, give your opinion on that. Has it improved the software? Has it made it worse? You could give some industry news. You know, especially if you're working with verticals or in a specific industry, that's going to work. That's going to work even better. So there's 10 types of posts that you can create. Don't have to create all of them, but I think it really helps to have that list. So that when you're trying to come up with ideas, that format can almost inform the content that you're going to create. But that in itself doesn't actually necessarily write the content for you. So what I thought we'd do is have a look at some writing tips. And what I've done is had a chat to the BizInc content team and asked them for just some real short tips on what they would say around writing a blog. So the first thing is you want to keep a notebook. You know, ideas are going to pop up at any time, and most likely that's going to be when you're away from your desk. And I can guarantee you'll always forget. You'll always forget an idea if you've not written it down. So keep a pen. You know, keep something handy that you can jot down ideas. That could be old school pencil and paper. Electronic, something like Evernote. I really like that because you can do tagging in there and organize your notes really well. You know, there's tons of other stuff like Google Notes, such as Notepad, whatever, Word. A voice recorder. So lots of different options there. I was just checking out yesterday. Google Docs has now got a speech to voice function, so you just talk at your computer, and it's pretty good. It gets, yeah, I'd say like 90% right, but high 90% right. So if you don't like sitting down and writing, that could be a cool way to do it. My tip that I would add in there that would be, you actually need to schedule some time to go back and look over your notes. You know, I've kind of fallen foul of that, where I've written a load of stuff down and then just not bothered to look at it, and come across it, a couple of weeks later and thought, oh, what a waste. That was something that I needed. So schedule a time to go back and look at your ideas. Don't procrastinate. You just need to start writing, and you can create something perfect at a later time, or most likely it'll never be perfect. I think if you're working with accounts, things like a balance sheet obviously needs to be perfect. You don't have to transfer that to writing. Writing is it's impossible to get perfect, and it's better to have a good blog post this week than a perfect blog post next week that never happens. So leading on from that, look, the only way you're going to get better at writing is by writing. It's kind of like exercising a muscle. You get stronger, and then that becomes easier. So you really need to just get writing. And at first, some of your writing might not be as good as you want it to be, but over time, you'll really improve and find that easier. And the final thing I'd say is style is important. The style needs to be conversational. A lot of people in business seem to write in this kind of like 19th century style, which I think is learned through essay writing in school, and using kind of words like however and therefore, in conclusion, and that's not how people talk, and it comes across a bit weird when you read it. So yeah, try and be informal, try and be conversational, and read out loud what you write. And if it doesn't sound like how you would speak, you need to adjust that. I've got a couple of really good pro tips on that. So this is from Caleb Newquist. He's he heads up Going Concern, which is a really popular accounting blog in the US. So what he's saying is like write like you're talking you would talk in the pub. That doesn't mean you can't talk about technical things, as he said, but don't do it in a kind of stuffy way. Do it in a conversational, kind of informal manner. And Liz Farr, who's a CPA and blogger, like as she explains here, and I think this really puts it very elegantly. Simple sentences, simple words, write in a conversational tone, as if you're writing a letter to a friend who doesn't know much about the topic as you do. That quote is how you should write. It's conversational in the very words she's used. There are no big words in there. Nobody's impressed by big words. Nobody's impressed by jargon. So just keep those out of your writing at all costs. So the final part that I just wanted to go off is what I call the payoff. Ultimately, what we're doing here with blogging is marketing, right? So what we're trying to do is, find and retain clients. There are other reasons for doing your blog, but basically it comes down to that. That's why we're doing it. So what you want your blogs to do really is, engage your existing clients and do all of that kind of retention thing. So, for example, that example which I gave, Chargify and Xero integration that I found out about, I'd love to hear that from my accountant. That would really kind of impress me if they got in touch and were like, here you go, we found this out, we can help you with it, and I would have paid them to do the work. Added to that, you want your blogs to create a sales pipeline for you. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing you really need to think about is calls to action. So calls to action being things that make people get in touch with you, basically. And rather than kind of talk around that, I thought I'd show you that on some real websites. So this isn't an accounting website or blog. This is actually a guy called Noah Kagan, a very a hugely successful marketer, and his blog is actually a landing page to try and get leads for him. So, you know, this call to action is massive. Get access to 85% of my best business hacks, and you put your email address in there. So, you know, his email list is like nearly 750,000 people on it. Pretty impressive. And it is actually his blog. You know, you can click through to his blog here. But his actual blog homepage is a call to action. And you know, and look, so I click through and we don't even see the blog. We've got this big call to action here. So as a pretty extreme example, but you know, it's a hugely effective blog. This is Blake Oliver's blog. So we had some of Blake's pro tips earlier, and you can see before we get to any posts, he's also got this email subscribe call to action there. And Blake also works in marketing for HPC, which is one of the biggest cloud accounting firms in the States. And you can see that you know, we've got this big call to action here. Get set up in the cloud the right way. Free consultation. Get started. So, you know, really kind of big call to action there, right at the heart of the blog. So, you know, you don't want to do all the hard work of writing great content, getting people to your blog, and then you do nothing to get them to get in touch with you. It's really important to do that. This is Going Concern, which is Caleb's blog. So we can see, you know, got a tip for us. I click on that, drops out all the contact details, a contact form, and they've got an email sign up box here. And the final one I wanted to show you was Heather Smith's blog. So, you know, quite a simple minimalistic layout, but we've still got, you know, hello, click to send an inquiry, social sharing. We've got this kind of good call to action up here about how to connect through LinkedIn, YouTube, and you know, scroll to the bottom, all about Heather, links to her different products and services, and again, some more sharing. So lots of ways to kind of for people to connect and really kind of leveraging the good content that they've produced. And you know, the other thing that you get kind of that you're going to want to do is promote your content. So just get back to the right slide. You know, is obviously promote your content. And you know, Noah Kagan, whose blog I showed you there first, the one with the huge call to action, he would actually say that you should spend 20% of your time creating content and 80% of your time promoting it, which is pretty interesting, right? That, you know, you would spend, you know, far more time actually promoting the content than writing it. Now, you know, it's like all these 80-20 stats, you know, you can kind of fiddle with the numbers a little bit, but let's just say it's really important to not just think, oh, I've written a blog post, that's all I have to do. You know, it's not like Field of Dreams, build it and they will come. You have to write the post and then try and push people to it. And that means social media. That means, you know, you could post it on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn has now a post function. So you don't just do updates, you can do posts. Suggest they're a very good thing that you can check out. And you'll also want to be pushing out your content through email marketing. So, you know, getting emails out to your client base, through your newsletter, and also to prospects as well. So I'm just going to show you something really quickly before we wrap up, and that's about repurposing content, which is a really important element of what you do. So this is the back of a BizInc website. This is a blog post sitting in there. So this is you know, a review post on some business and money books, and so I can hit this, I can hit publish, but what we've also got, this is, it's linked up to social media as well. So I hit publish, and I'm going to go to the front end of the site and just take a quick look at that. So we can see that post live on the site there, nice image on it as well. that post live on the site, got a call to action on it, and obviously all that kind of stuff. But that's cool, but we want to repurpose that. So what's happened there is if I go to Twitter and then I refresh the Twitter stream that's linked to this, you can see that's automatically posted through there as well. So, you know, we're just trying to get more bang for our buck. Post once to the blog. Here it is on Twitter. If I go to Facebook and refresh that, there we go. That's auto posted there as well. So we're just really leveraging that one post. And then final example is this also pushes through to an email newsletter. So we've got this email newsletter set up, completely automated. It sends out every second month on the second Tuesday at 10 a.m. And to show you a quick preview, there's all the stories that are on the blog. Read more will pull you back to the blog, and then you've got all your calls to action there, and that's automatically sending. So, you know, just that one post to the blog equals posting to social media, and also posting through to a newsletter. So that can work really, really well. And other things, you know, you can do in terms of repurposing your content. Obviously, you saw that you can turn content into an ebook or even a full book, like Heather Smith did. You know, the example of if you do interviews, you could turn that into a podcast. And I'd also say look at creating visual content as well. So, you know, it's very cheap to hire a designer from a site like something like Fiverr.com, and you could take the information you've used in a post and ask them to create that into like a visual format, sometimes described as an infographic. So all of those things extend your marketing reach and obviously make more people aware of your firm. So the big takeaway there is, you know, hopefully you've seen some ideas on why you should blog, some methods for generating ideas, some writing tips, and so do all those things. Hopefully, you know, you're getting some blog posts created, but just don't forget to do that promotional part at the end, and that's, you know, what a percentage of time you spend doing that. Don't neglect that, because that's where you'll see the benefits by pushing out that content through all these different channels and pulling people back to your website. And you know, in time, that's how you create more leads and eventually more clients. So I'm going to wrap it up there, jump back into the slides, and hopefully we've got a few questions there, which I'm going to stick around to answer. So thanks a lot for coming along. If you want to connect with me, the details are up on screen there.